Manx Radio's Update with Dave Moore.
The time is 5 o'clock. You're listening to Manx Radio. I am Dave Moore and this is Update. Welcome to the programme. Half an hour of the latest news in the Isle of Man, plus sport, business, travel updates along with the newsmakers in person. Coming up, with Donald Trump setting 10% tariffs on goods from the UK, we'll hear what it means for Isle of Man Creamery. Plans for a major redevelopment on Lord Street will go ahead despite a planning application being withdrawn today. And the government launches a public consultation on what looks to be the biggest shake-up to the jury system in decades. That's all coming up in the next half hour. But first of all, the update news headlines with Lewis Foster. Fastamai.
It's understood plans for a major redevelopment on Lord Street in Douglas will still go ahead, despite the planning application being withdrawn. A co-developer of the project, which would see a cinema, offices, shops and a bus information centre built, says the application will be resubmitted at the end of the month. The site is currently an unmanaged car park. It was the second driest March on record, and now the island's fire service is warning people of the dangers of wildfires.
It's not only going to be a scar to the landscape, it's going to disrupt the habitat on the island, and it can encroach on properties, farmers' fields and livestock.
That's Richard Little, the leading firefighter on the fire prevention team, who's urging people to act responsibly, particularly in grassy areas. Police say there's been an increase in antisocial behaviour in Onken recently. Officers have been receiving daily reports from residents who are repeat victims. And who should be eligible for jury service is the subject of a new public consultation launched by government. It's the biggest review of the system since 1980 and could see automatic job-based exemptions removed. In the latest international news, American stock markets are tumbling as Donald Trump claims the US will be stronger, bigger and better through his sweeping global taxes on imports. The dollar's also down as concerns about a recession grow. Britain, which is being hit by 10% tariffs, is drawing up a list of countermeasures. The UK's charity watchdog has opened an investigation into Centre Barley. Prince Harry says there have been blatant lies after he quit the charity as patron last week. Its chair has accused him of harassment and bullying. And Luton Airport is expected to increase its passenger numbers by 14 million a year after the UK Transport Secretary approved an expansion plan. By the mid-2040s, its runway could be used for 77,000 more flights per year. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with the news at 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Lewis. Looking at the weather, dry, gradually turning cloudy this evening though. The risk of a few spots of light rain later in the night also. Lowest temperature around 9 Celsius. Tomorrow morning, cloudy at first. Sunny spells gradually developing during the morning. Light to moderate east wind. Feeling warm with a maximum temperature of 16 Celsius. And the fine weather is going to continue over the weekend, albeit temperatures will be returning closer to average for this time of year.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshore Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tremode Estate, view philshorevehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Bell-Dorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company, Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
SMS Trading have moved to 3 St Paul's Square, Ramsey. For flat pack to fully built, new or second-hand furniture, SMS Trading offer all-island delivery and man-in-a-van service. Call 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
At Begode Cattery, we have been caring for animals for over 50 years. As a cattery, we care for customers' cats and treat them as our own. Contact Begode Cattery on 676 947 or find Begode Cattery on Facebook.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Plans for a major redevelopment on Lord Street in Douglas will still go ahead, even though doubt was cast earlier today after a planning application was withdrawn. Amy Griffiths is with me. Amy, just remind us about the development.
Well, it's due to be built on the car park area next to Barbary Coast, so behind the bus stops on Lord Street. And the plans are for a mixed-use development with 85 apartments, office space, a multi-screen cinema complex, restaurants and a food hall. It's also hoping to include a new indoor bus information centre with a waiting area for passengers, as well as public toilets and changing facilities. That in particular is something that's long been called for since the previous depot was demolished in 2002.
So this scheme then, it's being supported, I believe, by the government's Island Infrastructure Scheme.
That's right. It's an initiative that's hoped to accelerate the regeneration of brownfield sites by offering financial assistance of up to 25% of eligible costs. And when these plans were first unveiled, government was very open in its support of them and its desire to help facilitate them in any way it could.
So then, why was the planning application withdrawn?
Well, there were two developers involved in the plans initially. Ramsey-based White of Inn Limited and Lord Street Development Limited. White of Inn had submitted the existing application, but due to private and unforeseen circumstances, it's no longer in a position to take the project forward. The online planning application was updated yesterday with an email from the director of White of Inn asking for it to be withdrawn at the earliest convenience. However, Lord Street Development says it is still going to go ahead with the plans alone. It's going to resubmit basically the same plans in its name instead and expects to do so by the end of the month. White of Inn has declined to comment, but in a statement, Lord Street Development insists it shares the desire to transform the site and create a landmark development of high quality for the benefit of the Isle of Man residents and visitors.
Thank you, Amy. The managing director of Isle of Man Creamery Limited says they're relieved that US tariffs on their products has been set at 10%. Philly McLeod says the export of Manx cheese to the United States is a huge part of their business.
In some ways, the fact that the tariff rate has landed at 10% is a little bit of a relief for us. We do sell a few hundred tons of high-value branded Isle of Man cheese to customers in the States. It's a competitive market, but it is a high-value market for us. And so that makes a very valuable part of our cheese business. We were kind of anticipating, if anything, slightly worse than the 10% tariff. We see that the EU is going to be subject to a 20% tariff, and that will include some of our biggest competitors for imported cheese in the States, which is Ireland and Irish cheddar. So if Irish cheddar is going to be subject to a 20% tariff, we're going to be subject to a 10% tariff, then it may well actually enhance our competitive position versus the Irish cheddar. However, any tariff at all is obviously going to add to our costs in exporting to the US. So in some ways, it's not a great thing, but in other ways, the impact is still to be made clear.
How big is exporting cheese to America a part of your business?
It's a very important part of our business. I mean, we make about 1,800 tons of cheese here at the factory, and we sell about 250 tons on the Isle of Man, and then we have about 500 tons which is sold as Isle of Man branded cheddar all over the world, literally Australia, Canada, the US, Europe, Ireland, and the UK. Of that 500 odd tons of premium sales, about half of that this year will be going to the States.
Wow.
So it's a very, very important part of our premium cheese business.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
The Isle of Man government's launched a public consultation on what could be the biggest shake-up to the island's jury system in more than 4 decades. Christian Jones joins me now. What's being proposed, Christian?
Yeah, so this is the most significant review of the jury system since 1980. The government is looking to overhaul who is eligible to serve on a jury, and one of the key changes would be removing many of the automatic exemptions that are currently given to certain professions.
So which professions are we talking about?
Well, at the moment, people in roles like medical care, civil servants, clergy and journalists are automatically exempt from jury service, but under the proposed changes, your job alone wouldn't be enough to rule you out. So instead, anyone could be called, and only if they have a valid reason for, say, caring responsibilities or that it would maybe seriously impact their work, they'd have to then request to be excused on a case-by-case basis.
So what you're saying then, it's maybe about making it more inclusive?
Yeah, exactly. The aim is to ensure fairness and create a jury pool that better reflects the island's community. And it does follow recommendations from a Tynwald Select Committee. The idea is to bring us more in line with places like England and Wales, where most professional exemptions have already been scrapped.
And this is all based on legislation that's been around for quite some time.
That's right. The current rules are based on the Jury Act 1980 and haven't really changed in the past 45 years. So the jury list is drawn from the electoral register, and that includes a number of automatic disqualifications and exemptions, not just by profession, but also things like recent criminal convictions or certain mental health conditions.
Therefore, the public is being asked to have their say on this.
Yes, the consultation is now open and runs until the 23rd of May. People are being invited to comment on whether those exemptions should be updated, whether the current 10-year post-employment exemption period should be shortened, and whether any new professions or circumstances should be considered.
And what's the government saying about why this is actually needed?
Well, the Justice and Home Affairs Minister, Jane Paul Wilson, has said that jury service is a vital part of the justice system and that it's important the process is fair, transparent and results in juries that are truly representative of the community.
Thanks, Christian. And if you want to take part in that consultation, you can find it on the Isle of Man Government's Consultation Hub or at manxradio.com. Now, it comes really as no surprise to discover that last month was the second driest March on record, according to the Ronalds Way Met Office. There was just 13 millimetres of rainfall, 50 mils below average. The only time it was drier was back in 1953. Lewis Foster has this report.
Compare that to last year when 116.9 millimetres fell, surpassing the average for March by 53 millimetres. The Met Office says on a broader scale, last month falls into the top 20 driest of any months on record and is the driest month since June 2018's heatwave. The 22nd of March was the wettest day at only 3.9 millimetres of rainfall. Average top temperatures came in at 11 degrees, the second highest on record behind March 2012. The highest temperature overall was a very warm 16.1 degrees on the 9th of March, the second highest March temperature on record. It's also the earliest in the year the temperature has reached those heights. Ronalds Way says there was no air frost, but with plenty of clear skies, there were 11 nights across the month where we experienced a ground frost. In terms of sunshine, there was around 28% more than average, totalling 158.7 hours, the 8th highest total on record. Gales were down, we didn't see a single one. Welcome relief for those involved in the continuing clear-up after January's Storm Eowyn. The mean wind speed was 1.7 knots below average at 11.5 knots. The strongest gust on the 27th of March was 42 knots.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
So it's all looking good down at the airport at the moment. All the departures are showing as on time, and in terms of arrivals, they're on time as well. And just had a quick peep to see if I could see a ferry coming into Douglas. It shouldn't be too far away. In fact, it is showing as arriving into... Oh, in fact, it's arriving in... It departed at 10 to 3 from Heysham this afternoon. The Ben McCree is expected in around 6:30 this evening.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
Quayside.
The island's fire service is urging people to ensure they don't start wildfires. As the weather continues to improve, Isle of Man Fire and Rescue is asking the public to act responsibly when using grassy areas. Richard Little is the leading firefighter on the fire prevention team.
The main culprits seem to be disposable barbecues used inappropriately, Littering can cause wildfires as well, cigarettes, but also things like e-cigarettes and vapes. Anything with a lithium-ion battery inside can heat up and combust and start a fire that way. Littering in forms of glass bottles, glass items can concentrate the sunlight. It's kind of like that magnifying glass effect. And yeah, they can cause enough heat to start a fire.
And if a wildfire does start, what does the fire service have to do to be able to deal with it and to respond to it?
First of all, we don't attend until we get notified about it, which can be a number of times, depending where it is. Someone has to call it in. We get mobilised to it, and then we've basically got to find it, and it depends on how well the description is from the caller. Once we get there, access can be difficult. We do have off-road capability, so we get as far as we can with them, and then it might be a case of going on foot. But of course, we need to get water supplies to the fire, so that can involve a lot of hose running, building portable dams, making use of any water sources that have in the area, any lakes, rivers, ponds, things like that. If not, we have to transport the water that we carry on our trucks to the fire, which can be quite resourceful.
What kind of damage can they do?
Local wildlife this time of year, obviously the Manx countryside's beautiful. I don't blame you for going out and enjoying it. However, if wildfire does start, it's going to play havoc to the natural habitat. There's a lot of nesting creatures and animals at this time of year. So yeah, it's not only going to be a scar to the landscape, it's going to disrupt the habitat on the island. And it can encroach on properties, farmers' fields and livestock. It can have quite a damaging effect.
So how can people help make your lives easier and help protect the countryside and keep these wildfires at low risk?
Stop smoking and bring sandwiches. A lot of fire safety is, I'd say, common sense. So, yeah, with your smoke and cigarettes, fully extinguish them, take your rubbish home, same with your glass bottles. Don't litter and be careful. Have water handy just in case. And if you do see a wildfire, don't try and tackle it yourself. Just give us a ring on 999.
You listen to Manx Radio. This is Update, and after what's been a memorable few days, Isle of Man athlete Sarah Astin says she's confident in her ability to reach new levels in her racing career. She's been speaking to Manx Radio after she earned her first call-up for Great Britain and Northern Ireland and smashed her own women's 10,000 metre Manx record within the last 7 days.
It's going well now. I feel like I had a couple of years where not necessarily where I struggled, but just wasn't improving, which is obviously very normal in any sport. You just got to be patient and just keep at it, basically, and for those breakthrough performances to come. But yeah, I mean, I've been lucky, really fortunate in the fact that I've, touch wood, had pretty much an injury-free year. I did change coach towards the end of summer last year, which I think has helped me progress on to that next level. That on top of the fact that I'm able to work part-time now, thanks to a few things. So Isle of Man Sport Aid being one. I'm really happy with how things are going. I think there's still a lot more to do.
For the first time, you've been selected to represent Great Britain and Northern Ireland at the inaugural European Road Ring Championships in Belgium next week. What was your initial reaction when you found out you got that call-up?
Yeah, I was really, really happy. I found out when I was away on a training camp, which was actually quite nice because I was in America and there was a big time difference. For the trial, to make the team, you had to run under 32.20 and come top 4. So I knew there was a good chance because they also take 6. So there was 2 discretionary spots as well. But in the end, yeah, it worked out really well. Yeah, over the moon to finally say that I'm a GP international.
Just over a year from now, the Commonwealth Games return in Glasgow. Should the opportunity arise, would you like to represent the Isle of Man again in a certain discipline?
Oh, 100%. I would love to. Yeah, I think at Birmingham 2022 was probably, definitely the best experience running wise in my career that I've had. It was just amazing. Just walking out into the crowd and there just being so many Isle of Man flags in the stadium. Yeah, it was just one of the coolest things I've ever done. Maybe my goal might be to double up and do the 5 and the 10, but we'll see. We'll see how the next 18 months or so go.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
A candidate standing for re-election in Castletown says this is for the commissioners, says there needs to be a plan for Market Square. Beth Cannon, who's the current chair of the board of the local authority, hopes to introduce a changing places toilet into the town and install inclusive play equipment in the parks.
Over the last 4 years, I feel I've worked hard to improve the town, and I want to carry on with and see ongoing projects through to completion.
What are you standing for or on, and are there any key points on your manifesto that you'd like people to know?
I would like a standalone toilet block in the town, including a changing places toilet for disabled people. I think everyone has the right to use a bathroom with privacy and dignity. I think the square is obviously a bone of contention. There's for and against, and I think that needs to be absolutely sorted and sorted properly. I think the parks need doing. It's nice that we're installing new equipment in the Bowling Green Play Park, but we also need to look at Poulson Park, and we need a clear plan for Poulson Park. Personally, I would like to include play equipment for children with disabilities to make everything inclusive and accessible. Castletown is so much more than the square. I wanted to stand for election because I think the parks need doing. We need the toilet block. I support as many community celebrations and events that I can. And I'm deeply committed to Castletown. I grew up in Castletown. I've lived my whole life in Castletown. And I want to take pride in being involved in its growth.
That's Beth Cannon. The other candidates are Tony Brown, John Kringle, William Galley, Colin Leather, Alan Leonard, Mahendra Kumar Patel, Carol Quine and Lawrence Waddison. As the Isle of Man walking football team prepares to take on national opposition this weekend, there's a feeling the sports continue to grow in the island since coming into fruition in the last few years. Tony Sewell and Mike Sharp of the Isle of Man Walking Football Association have been talking about how far things have come and also what's needed to keep the sport developing here in future.
We've played France, Italy, we've played a lot of big countries. The professionalism is how serious they take walking football. That's the kind of level we're getting at now. We've been improving over the years. We have beat some of the top teams. The 70s have beaten England, 60s have beaten Ireland, Wales. So we've been improving all along, but now we're getting to a stage where we're getting even better.
How much has walking football grown, do you think, over the last few months and last few years?
It's dropped off a lot of late, to be honest with you. People have been playing, and then you usually find when the weather turns bad, they don't make the effort to come out. But generally the sport, as a national sport, sport's growing massively. After paddle, I think it's the biggest growing sport, walking football.
What has helped most, do you think, to keep the Isle of Man standard rising?
Well, I think in recent 2 or 3 years or so, being able to participate in these events at this level, at international level, has been absolutely game-changing. The first time that we played Wales here, when walking football was really in its infancy, they embarrassingly beat us quite a lot.
I think it was about 13-0.
And then going forward from there, a couple of years later, 60s side beat Wales 1-0 and then amazingly followed that up by beating England in the same tournament. We have progressed. Yeah, I think there has been a little bit of a dip under a couple of years ago, maybe in the last 12 months or so, but I think it's growing again strongly with such a relatively small group of players. But we're still looking for new players. We need more players, especially goalkeepers. But yes, things are looking good, and we're so looking forward to this event this weekend and see if we can't avenge the 13-0 defeat of a few years ago.
They'll be taking on Wales and Northern Ireland this weekend. We wish the Isle of Man walking team the very best of luck. Manx Utilities is to undertake a significant refurbishment of the spillway channel at Kringle Reservoir. The spillway served the site for 80 years. However, it requires essential maintenance as identified in a statutory inspection, as Siobhan Fletcher reports.
The work will get underway later this month on the 22nd of April and will take nearly 6 months to complete. The expected end date is the 1st of October. The MUA is to install a reinforced cast concrete structure lining the existing walls and bed of the spillway and a drainage system to collect and dispose of water from around and under the new structure. Workers will also clear the stilling basin, which is downstream of the spillway. The authority has confirmed there will be no impact on the island's water supply as a result of the work, and the site will remain open to the public. Occasionally, access to the dam crest may be restricted, but never for extended periods. It's also confirmed a landscape contractor will be on site between the 7th and the 21st of April to relocate the species-rich grassland surrounding the Kringle spillway. Manx Utilities asks visitors to be mindful of ongoing activities and supervise children and dogs.
Siobhan Fletcher with that report. Now, firmly seated in the sports desk is Rob Pritchard. Faster my.
Faster my Dave. Well, we'll start tonight with motorsport, and Manx road racer Nathan Harrison has confirmed his plans for the 2025 Isle of Man TT races. The Onca man will ride under the H&H Motorcycles banner in what will be an official Honda satellite team this year. The 26-year-old will contest the 1000cc and Supersport classes on the Snaefell Mountain course this summer in what will be his third TT. It's a new direction for the 2019 Junior and Senior MGP winner, having been left out of the official Honda Racing UK lineup after 2 seasons with the manufacturer. Well, in his maiden TT appearance in 2022, Harrison stormed onto the scene with 4 top 20 finishes in the 5 races he contested, which also included coming 10th in the senior race. He missed the 2023 meeting due to an injury sustained at the Northwest 200 that year, but finally got his chance to race in the Honda colours on Ireland in 2024. Last year he claimed an impressive 7th place in the senior race and was retirement in both the Superbike and Superstock races. In cycling, up-and-coming Isle of Man talent Ruby Oakes could make her Women's World Tour debut later this week. The 18-year-old is named in the provisional start list for the 2025 Tour of Flanders on Sunday for women's continental team Das Hutchinson. The 2023 Isle of Man Commonwealth Youth Games medalist is one of 2 Island riders on the provisional roster, along with Lizzie Holden for UAE team ADQ. Fellow professional competitor Becky Storey isn't currently featured in the lineup for Team Picnic post-NL, and it is important to point out the start list remains subject to change potentially at short notice. And finally, the Isle of Man will be represented at the World Bowls Indoor Championship later this month. 2 players, Mark McGreal and Carolyn Whitehead, have been chosen to fly the Manx flag at Aberdeen Bowls Club in Scotland from the 20th to the 25th of April. The duo's campaign will begin with teaming up for an opening mixed pairs encounter with Hong Kong on the opening day at 8:30am. In the men's singles, McGreal's first match will be against Boaz Markers of Israel shortly after on the same day at 1pm. At 2:45pm that afternoon, Whitehead will begin her women's singles campaign against Switzerland's Caroline Lehmann. The final 2 days of the tournament, the 24th and 25th, will be live streamed.